Nobody cares about the Big 12 though, because the Big 12 sucks, and like that's why people vouching for y'all. Like y'all about to start getting Notre Dame treatment. People about to stop vouching for y'all to go to the playoffs because y'all do the same thing every time y'all get in. I mean, I know OU sucks, but don't get mad about it. Now, don't throw picks because OU sucks now.
No, you can keep doing it.
You're saying the Big 12 is not good because you're an SEC fan.
No, I'm saying the Big 12 is not good because everybody knows the Big 12 sucks. The Big 12 plays no defense.
So you're saying 5 teams. 5 teams that are worth mentioning in the SEC are better than the Big 12. Let me tell you who's good in the SEC. LSU, Alabama, maybe Florida. The only reason you're saying the SEC is better than the Big 12
No, I'm saying this because I'm... What up? You're tuned in to Sports with Amari and Christian, and we are here to give you this week's fix. How you doing today, Christian?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm fine. Had a good weekend. Pretty peaceful. Got a lot of stuff done. Got some homework done. So I'm doing good. This week is not going too bad. Georgia plays again Saturday, so I'm happy about that. We need to bounce back.
Yeah, man. We saw some pretty big matchups this past weekend, like Ohio State and Nebraska. What was your reactions on that?
What I expected. No, it actually wasn't what I expected because I watched the part of that football game where Nebraska could have put themselves in a better position to win, and they like straight up laid down. Like they handed Ohio State momentum. Like here Ohio State, you wanna blow us out bad, you wanna beat us bad. Here you go, doing stupid stuff.
Yeah, and it definitely didn't help that Martinez only went 12 of 15 for 105 yards. I mean, you're not gonna beat a school like Ohio State.
And like 12 for 15 for only 100 yards wouldn't even be bad if he don't fumble.
Yeah.
Like if he don't have that scoop and score for 6, when he could have got a first down, but he was trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm. And Justin Fields, I mean, he looked like a Heisman contender. You know, he went 20 of 21, 276, and 2 touchdowns. And he also carried the ball 15 times for 54 and a touchdown. So
I mean, but it goes back to what I always say about Ohio State quarterbacks. They should not get not one award in the postseason because it's a system thing. Every black quarterback that comes through that system does the same thing. And when they get on the next level, they don't look up to par. So
why do you think that is?
It's a system thing. Ohio State puts them in that spread system where they, like, don't get me wrong, as a college quarterback, like, it's some great stuff. They look great. And, like, even in big games, it works for them.
So it's like an
It's
unwillingness to change.
It's not a pro-style system.
Yeah.
It's not something that sets you up for the pros. And unless you're Trevor Lawrence or, like, I'm not even going to say Trevor Lawrence because I'm not a big fan, or, like, Tua, like, true passers, guys that can read defenses and, like, look guys off and has multiple reads on a play, not just one read guys, like Ohio State, you're not going to work on the next level.
There was also an upset this past weekend, Penn State versus Indiana. You know, they won off that bogus 2-point conversion. It looked like the ball was out. I mean,
it should never got that. It shouldn't have been that close. If I'm Penn State, if you're Penn State, it shouldn't have been that close. And yeah, that's where they fell at.
You're going into the game, you know, in the top 10. You shouldn't be going into overtime with Indiana.
Yeah,
can't have your quarterback throwing 2 interceptions either in that game. But, I mean, more pressing news. I mean, Wisconsin looked pretty good in their season opener.
Who'd they play?
They played Illinois.
I mean, Illinois.
Pass heavy.
But, I don't know. Wisconsin, Illinois, I expect Wisconsin to look great when they're playing somebody like that.
Yeah, I think what surprised me was that they threw the ball a lot more often than they usually do.
It's Illinois, of course. You can Illinois, a game like that, that's a time for Wisconsin to work on their weaknesses because they're obviously better than them.
Yeah, and now today, I mean, Wisconsin's not going to be able to play for 21 days.
21?
Yeah, that's the Big Ten's rules.
That's stupid when you're only playing. If you, like, I understand, you feel me, you got protocols, but if you're only playing an 8-game season, you just took away 3 games. That defeats the purpose of even playing.
Yeah, I mean, some people are saying that they're out of the Big Ten championship because you have to play X amount of games. Yeah,
if I'm Wisconsin, I'm threatening to opt out or give me a game back, like Nick Saban, or like, and that's the thing, right? When stuff like that happens at Alabama, you feel me? It's a week max thing, and it's gonna get nipped in the bud. These people got to play. These people got to wait 3 weeks to play again. For what? Like, get it cleaned up, get it contained, test everybody 3 times next week. Do the three test thing in 24 hours, and then you move on. You move the guys that are contaminated. You move them out, and you get them in a quarantine and sit them out for at least 14 days, at least. But don't make the whole team sit 21 days.
And the thing is, if they're actually going to go based upon this policy and ride out the full 21 days, they're not going to come back until the 14th of next month.
Of December?
Of November.
I mean, I'm tripping.
And so you have teams like Nebraska had to, obviously cancel their game because there's no room to postpone it. Because right now their last game was supposed to be played on December 12th. So there's no room, if you're going to make the college football playoffs, there's no room to move it back. So you have Nebraska having to cancel, potentially Purdue and Michigan all having to cancel a game.
That'll hurt for Michigan.
Yeah, especially.
Michigan are actual contenders. Like, they're actually a top 25 team, well, top 15 team now, aren't they? Number 13 after a big win Saturday at Minnesota.
And it's unfortunate, and I think that with the Big Ten, potentially having to cancel more games, if Ohio State has to cancel a game and they go into that 21-day protocol, it opens up for the Big 12 to get in a 2-loss champion. And that would be the Big Ten's fault for putting in that protocol and not having the 3 tests, within the 24-hour span.
I don't think a Big 12 2-loss champion gets in. I mean, granted, I want to wait till the college football playoffs start, but I don't like y'all just got back in. Y'all at what, 24?
Yeah, they put us at 23. 23. So this first week.
That's what I'm saying. Y'all that high. I don't see how you can ease back into the top 4, even if you went out from 23.
Yeah, it'll be.
But that's what I'm saying. Obviously, you got to wait for the CFP rankings. But even in the CFP rankings, like, they don't come off too far off from the AP rankings.
Yeah, and I think by the time that the college football playoff rankings, Oklahoma would potentially, at best, be 4-2 or 5-2. Mm-hmm. So if Oklahoma is below,
you'd be 5-2, but you still be like number 19.
Yeah, I'd feel like if the college football playoff's going to put Oklahoma at 15 in the initial rankings, if we're anything, 15 and up, then obviously there's no chance, and they obviously don't value Oklahoma that much. But these are all hypotheticals, so I mean, we'll see the first initial rankings.
It's gonna be tough. You know who I can see sliding in though in the playoffs by luck? Well, I can't even see it because they still have to play Clemson again, so I'm gonna change. I'm not even gonna say it, but I can actually see like Notre Dame. Nah, like I said, they gotta play Clemson again, so I can't see it. They'll have to play Clemson in the regular season. No, actually, that will open up for Notre Dame to get in again because they have to play Clemson in the regular season, and they're on the same side of the conference. So if they have one loss and it's to Clemson, they'll get in.
See, I just don't think they're that good.
Notre Dame, they're not.
Yeah.
But the only hard game they have left is Clemson. They don't have to play Miami. Miami has to see Clemson again in the ACC championship. And that's what's going to stop them from having a chance. Jalen Waddle just got put out for the season. So, like, when Georgia and Alabama play again, if they do, I hope that plays a factor and takes away some points off the board so we can win the conference and get in.
Yeah, I mean, Florida or Georgia's toughest game of the season, remaining is probably Florida.
Yeah, and that might get canceled. How Florida's team, they've had 37 cases since the season started on their team. And they just had 10 new cases when they returned to play.
Yeah, and this is, all these COVID-19, cases, it's going to open up for a lot of teams that usually wouldn't get into the college football playoff, to be in consideration, this year, like BYU or Cincinnati, because you can obviously say that the Pac-12, if they have either Oregon or USC have positive cases and they have to cancel a game, they're out. So obviously you can't cancel a game because there's no room to postpone it, and to reschedule it. So yeah. I think the Big 10 or the Big 12 is going to get a 2-loss team in this year, especially if the non-power fives end up losing a game.
You think they will? They won't. Y'all the only team that has 2 losses, like, that are contenders.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State's at number 6 at 4-0 still. So, I mean, they still have Oklahoma State sitting there, but they still have to get past Oklahoma, and that's something that they usually can't do.
Even if Oklahoma State loses to Oklahoma, if y'all beat Oklahoma State, that'll mess up the Big 12's chances of getting a team in. I understand. I feel like I just feel like 2 losses won't get in, and if they have 1 loss, I feel like they're still the Big 12 best chance to get in, or Texas.
No, I mean, Texas isn't even ranked right now. I mean,
how many games did Texas lose?
They're 3-2. Texas is 3-2. They lost against TCU and Oklahoma, but they're not even ranked right now.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma just crept back into the rankings, so you'd imagine how long it's gonna take for Texas to get back in. If they got their second loss after y'all got y'all second loss.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma's schedule, favors them. They go to Tech this weekend, then they host Kansas, and their toughest game remaining is Oklahoma State. So easily Oklahoma can win out, but a lot's going to have to be riding on that.
Oklahoma State offense looked good Saturday.
Yeah, their defense looks good. Probably the best in the Big 12, and that's saying a lot. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, it was Iowa State. Iowa State doesn't put up that many points.
They did on Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, that's because Oklahoma's defense is trash. Mm-hmm. But they did look good against TCU.
But the matchup we have not talked about, Michigan versus Minnesota. Top 25 matchup opening week of the Big Ten. Michigan looked very impressive. And sophomore quarterback Joe Milton looked very up to par with the hype that he's been receiving. You watched that game?
I watched a little bit of it. I mean, it was surprising the way Michigan came out and scored 49 points on Minnesota.
Yeah. Michigan was a true spread team, too. Like, they looked like one of those ACC, SEC spread offenses, and not just in shotgun to look like spread and running playing power football.
Yeah, Tanner Morgan disappointed a lot.
You disappoint. Michigan's D-line disappointed Minnesota a lot. And Michigan D-line was getting after it. And it's hard to throw the ball when they're playing man coverage. So, they're playing man coverage behind a great pass rush. It's hard to win like that. It's hard to beat that defense. And their athletes are just as good as yours.
So who would you put at the Big Ten favorite to come out?
I don't know, man. It's out of Michigan, Ohio State. I'm gonna go Michigan just because like I said, my younger cousin is the starting quarterback for them. So I got a little bias in me. I'm going Michigan. Yeah,
I mean, in the Big Ten West, you obviously have Wisconsin potentially out due to the COVID-19 protocol. So you have Northwestern, Purdue, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, and Nebraska now fighting for that division. And on the East, they're pretty top-heavy with Indiana, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, most importantly, Rutgers got their first Big Ten
First top
win.
10. Well, no, not top 10. First Big Ten win in, 3 years?
Yeah. That's big for the conference.
I think it just shows like Michigan State has finally hit rock bottom. They've been declining the last 3 years, and I think they finally hit rock bottom.
They hit rock bottom after they went to the college football playoffs and got smacked.
Who?
Michigan State played Alabama in 2015, and Alabama won 38-0. It would have been the year that Oklahoma and Clemson played in the other semifinal game, Baker Mayfield's first season as starter.
But Michigan State has definitely been on a decline, like you said, since they made the playoffs and played Alabama. Alabama might have just struck their program down, is what it seems like. So, I'm not putting too much into Rutgers winning their first conference game since 2016 or whatever. I don't care about that, because Michigan State is already at the bottom of the barrel now. But Indiana beating Penn State is a big tide changer for the Big Ten. I feel like that was good for the conference.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think if Penn State goes to win out and they win the Big Ten, I feel like the committee will be a little lenient on, that one loss, because it was definitely a failed 2-point conversion that they didn't catch.
But they shouldn't have been in that position. That's what I think about when I think about stuff like that. You shouldn't even have been in that position to where it got decided that way. Because you're Penn State and they're Indiana.
Yeah, but I mean, Indiana they're not like scrubs of the Big Ten. I mean,
They're
always
not the
play
bottom.
pretty
They're
good.
not Rutgers by any means, but like when Ohio State plays Indiana, you can tell it's gonna be the best team in the conference versus Indiana. When Michigan plays Indiana, it's gonna be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's what I'm saying. Like it's Indiana still. You're in your Penn State, so you got to do what you're supposed to do.
So I mean, let's give our top 4. The first college football playoff rankings are not that far off. So who do you have in your, let's say top 6? So you'll have your top 4 and then your first 2 out.
I got Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, and 2 on the outside looking in, Oklahoma State, and I hate to say it because they do it every time they get in. I'm going to go Oklahoma State and Texas A&M. When the CFP ranking comes out, I think that 12-7 game against Louisville will affect Texas A&M more than their first loss of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, will affect Notre Dame more than that Texas A&M loss because Texas A&M has some big wins.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put Texas A&M in my top 10 because they got, rolled over by Alabama.
I mean, but like you said, that's Alabama. Like, if you're vouching for eventually a 2-loss Big 12 team to get in, you gotta say Texas A&M will be up there then.
Yeah, and I see it that way too. But at the same time, if a top 4 team's already beaten you, by double digits,
it don't matter.
And you're trying to make the argument that Texas A&M deserves to be in the top 10, it's
But
rough.
I'm saying, but this is what I'm saying, right? You're vouching for, you saying a Big 12 team will win out, right? And be a 2-loss team in. You comparing a week 1 loss to Alabama to a week 2 and 3 loss to Kansas State and Iowa State, which in week 1 Kansas State lost to Arkansas State. So when you unfold all the scenarios and all the nuances of it, either way, if you're gonna have a little faith in that, you gotta have a little faith that Texas A&M will be down there, even if they got steamrolled by Alabama. It's still it was a week 1 game.
So in my rankings, I would actually have Clemson at the 1, Alabama at the 2, and then I would put Oklahoma State at the 3, and then Cincinnati at 4, and Ohio State at 5, because we just haven't seen enough just yet. I mean, it's the first. If we're going to do it based off of right now, or we're going to do projections on what they're going to do at the first rankings, Ohio State's going to be at less than 5.
By the first rankings, they would be number 3.
Only because we haven't seen. I mean, they did play Nebraska.
It's a bias. You know how college football works. It's a bias. They're Ohio State. Even if they only played 2 games and both of them were blowouts, they still get the nod.
Yeah, and that's an argument people are making. Like, we all know Ohio State is good, but how are we going to build, a case
for them?
But
this is what you're going to say, right, though? When 2 dudes are arguing for who should get in, right, Ohio State or Oklahoma State, right, it's going to be like, all right, y'all say we haven't seen enough from Ohio State, but we've watched Oklahoma State struggle with teams like Tulsa. So we know what they're capable of. What makes us think they can compete with Alabama and Clemson? I don't know. That's how I look at almost every scenario. You feel me? All right, you're saying this, but what is the team you're defending? What have they been through, and have they showed that they're ready?
And this is why I'm a huge advocate to expand the playoffs this season. There's no level playing field this year. This is how I will know that the college football playoff system is, decided off of ratings and not off of a true resume. Is if an Ohio State team, if they cancel because of COVID-19 and they go on to play less than, their scheduled games, and a 2-loss, 9-2 or 10-1 Big 12 champion isn't getting a nod, but a Big 10 team that only played, let's say, 6 or 7 games gets in, then the system is flawed. Especially if a non-Power 5 team goes undefeated like Cincinnati or SMU.
I can make that case for Cincinnati or SMU, but a 2-loss team, I'm not making that case for, Christian.
Excuse me, not SMU, BYU, because Cincinnati just beat SMU. But
BYU, if BYU,
Cincinnati
I can make that case for BYU and Cincinnati, but I can't make it for a 2-loss team.
I think we can, because it's
compared to an undefeated Oklahoma State. I can't make that case for them.
I think there is a case there, because
it's not a case.
you're
They lost
playing
2
more
games.
games than them.
It don't
and
matter.
obviously that
They,
the level.
and the thing is, like, you say they're playing more games, but you lost those 2 games in your first 3 games. They went their first 3 games undefeated. They went their first 7 games undefeated. So, like,
then it comes down to eligibility. I mean,
what
the
are the
college football
rules?
playoff-
How many games do you have to play?
That's
in a
what
season?
I mean. That's what we have to wait for.
Like,
The college football playoffs haven't even decided
There's
how
never
many
been
games do you have to play in order to become eligible for postseason.
Yeah.
The Big Ten's already said that you had to play more than 6 games to make the Big Ten championship, and that's why everybody's advocating for
But those rules
committee
were set.
for the
Those rules were
NCAA.
set before the season. So I feel like if the CFPA came out with those rules before the season, I don't see them making too many adjustments to the rules. Because how you gonna tell teams like? Because I bet if the college football playoff was were to come out and had said like, oh, teams have to play 10 games to compete, the Big Ten would have rushed their camp. They wouldn't have went a month after their decision to play. They would have did 2 weeks and been playing games.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? So that's why I don't think the rules are gonna change too much.
Now, I think that, them playing their scheduled games now, 8 games during the regular season, that was enough.
Mm-hmm.
But once, you get a school like Wisconsin and having to cancel and be on the 21-day protocol, then you're like, well, now we have to take a step back and say, potentially you're only going to be playing 5 games on the season, and is that enough? But, I mean, right now I think the NCAA needs to decide whether or not if they're going to expand and, just test it out this year. Because, I mean, like, why not?
It's too late though. It's too late to. You have to come up with like brackets and stuff like that. And, like, that's not the hard part, but like you have like how in D2 like we have super regions and stuff. You have to create stuff like that, and that stuff takes time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can easily.
And how you going to group teams like?
I mean, you can easily do just top 8.
Yeah, you can't put Bama and Clemson in the same region, even though like geographically you could, but like it's not fair. It's not fair that the best game will happen before we even get in the bottom 8 teams.
Yeah, I mean, it would if it were to end today, a top 8, college football playoff would be Clemson and Texas A&M playing at the 1 and 8.
That'd
be a pretty good matchup. In Alabama and Cincinnati, how are you going to give Alabama Cincinnati, but you're going to give Clemson Texas A&M?
But that's not Clemson's fault. Like, Cincinnati is ranked better than A&M. Like, whose fault is that Cincinnati is the number 7 team in the country?
And that's when you would see the committee strategically rank people in order to get fair matchups.
But that's what the top 4 is about. Like, honestly, I get what you're saying, but now you're just going back to why they only take 4 teams and why they take the top 4. Because if you do a full playoff, it's going to be some real unfair matchups in there.
It would always be non-power 5 at the 8.
And you'll have teams like Texas A&M that barely make it in, but that are way better than these teams that are ranked above them. So your best team gets a way harder matchup than your 4 seed.
Yeah, I mean, they need to figure something out. I think there's a lot of confusion going around, obviously in football right now. We're going to see a lot in this first rankings, how they're going to value teams that have only played, 3 games potentially, compared to, 4 and 5 non-power 5 teams that have played, I wouldn't say the non-power 5, playing 6 games right now is valued more than a 3-0 or 4-0 Big Ten team, but it's potentially going to be viewed that way to committee members. I mean, how do you view Cincinnati right now? They're at 7, and Ohio State's played 1 game, they're at 3.
I thought that was unfair that like Ohio State, and they didn't even like beat a quality opponent, and they just jumped Georgia and Notre Dame like that.
I could see why they jump ND, but Georgia is ridiculous.
I'm like, all right, I understand, like, you feel me, they're Notre Dame, so like they get the nod. They obviously, them being ranked number 5 for 2 weeks before playing, you already knew what type of deal it was.
Yeah, and they're overvaluing Wisconsin. I mean, they jumped 5 spots.
But didn't people in the bottom lose?
Well, you had Florida that stayed stationary. BYU at 6-0 went up 1. Miami at 5-1 went down. Michigan went up 5 from 18. So it was just they just jumped them. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of losing below them. I mean, then you saw Indiana, who was unranked, jumped all the way to 17. So they're obviously valuing Big Ten.
But Indiana,
teams,
I can see Indiana going to 17 though. That's fair.
Yeah.
They beat Penn State.
And Penn State dropped 10 spots and went down to 18. So you have Indiana, Penn State 17-18 after their matchup. And let's note also that Coastal Carolina 5-0 jumped up 5 spots.
Where'd they go to?
20.
That's good. I like them. I knew they were going to be ranked after they beat UL.
Yeah, I feel like if they win out, they're going to get into the they're going to become eligible for the New Year's Six. Mm-hmm. I believe you have to get to the 12 spot.
All right, last segment of the day though, Christian. We're going to transition to basketball real quick, and it's going to be a quick one. How do you feel about players trying to sit out on the December 22nd restart? I'm not agreeing with it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't ever try to put my shoes in the position of athletes because at the end of the day, it's their decision.
I think I'm gonna tell you why I don't agree with it. I think it's the best thing for getting the schedule back regular. Like we understand why they don't want to, like, but they gotta understand, like, they're trying to get things back to regular for next year.
Yeah, so, I mean, I saw an argument where, your body has to recover.
Yeah, but when did the season end for the last two teams? In the beginning of October.
Yeah.
And you won't start a camp until about a month before the season starts. So you still get the week till the week of Thanksgiving off, right? Or even if y'all want to go and push it back to the week after Thanksgiving because you want to give people time with their families, that's over a month for your body to recover. But like the dudes that I seen speaking out, like Danny Green, he's doing like 4 runs in the gym, in that famous gym that all the NBA players go to do pickup games in LA. Like, it's not like you're just sitting on your butt. You feel me? Like, I think that the December 22nd start, even that being 2 months after it would regularly start, is the best thing for trying to get the NBA back on schedule.
Yeah, I mean, there's been teams that have been sitting out longer than that.
Teams that didn't go back to the restart.
Yeah, I mean, you have teams that weren't invited to the bubble.
Exactly.
They've been out. So you're going to expect them to wait longer than that?
Yeah.
The only team that this really hurt, or the 2 teams that this hurts, is LA and
the Lakers and Miami, which it don't really hurt them, but of course you're going to have players complain as always. Like, you never, that's one thing you gotta realize, you're never going to please everybody. And we want to close out on that note today, man. Y'all have a good day. Thanks for listening.